Everybody, I'm going to show you today my new forms library for iOS written in Swift. It's called Form Builder. It's available on CocoaPods. The name is Form Builder. It's also available on GitHub. So what is Form Builder? Form Builder is a library that lets you display static data and input forms in iOS, and you build these data input forms declaratively. There's a special file called a specification file or spec file that you will build or write, and that file will describe what your form should look like. So this right here is the example spec file. It shows you all the different fields that you can add, and you'll notice that there's not a lot of syntax here. It's all just delimited with tabs and new lines basically. So the tabs, the indentation level determines what is a property of what. So you have section. All of these are properties of section. All of these are properties of add item, etc. So this is how you build your input form. Also, as far as the appearance of the form, it uses style sheets. So this is the default style sheet for the app. Right now, it's probably going to change quite a bit, but right now this is what it looks like. And you can override these style sheets however you want. There's no specification file by default, but there is a settings file that shows you, different options you can put in combo boxes, for instance, like states. They're all here in the settings file. There's a default style sheet. Now you can override the settings and the style sheet in your own project, and you will have to make your own specification file for your form because that doesn't exist. And here's what it looks like. Okay, it's got edit mode and view mode. This is view mode, so you're basically just looking at everything. It's cleaner for printing purposes and viewing purposes. And if you want to edit, man, come on. Okay, if you want to edit, just hit the edit button. And you can see here, okay, every field that's required has the required indicator. You've got text. You've got combo boxes. You can see here the states. You've got check boxes, another combo box. You've got options, radio button options. You've got text labels. You've got text areas. You've got static images. You've got the ability to choose an image. You've got dates. And you've got signatures that you can add to your form. You can also, at the top, you can add a new section, a new image, a new label, or a new signature. That's because I set that for this section, that you can add those. And you can also, for this section, collapse and expand. These are optional things that you can add to your section if you want to. When you hit save, it's going to do validation for you automatically. Now you can override this if you want, but this is the default behavior. And you can cancel, and when you cancel, everything goes back to the way it was before. All of your input is discarded, so you don't save any data that you don't want. So that's what Form Builder looks like. And now this can run on any size view. It can run on iPhone or iPad, just depending on what your project is. All of this sizing and positioning is done dynamically. You can put just one field per line if you want, but you can also put multiple fields. As you see here, there's 3 text boxes, 3 labels, 2 text boxes. You can put as many as you want as long as you've got enough room to display them all. So now the question you're asking is, how do you use this in your own projects? How can you take Form Builder and use it in a new iOS project? Okay, so I'm going to show you that right now. First thing you want to do, we'll go ahead and close this. Now, one thing you can do is you can take this whole project and download it off of GitHub and build and run the example project, and you'll see just what I showed you there. But you can also install this from CocoaPods in your own project, and to do that is very easy. You'll say File, New, Project, not Workspace, Project. Okay, now I'm going to do a single view app, doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it Test 7. Okay, and save it to here. Now that I've got my project, I'm going to add CocoaPods to this project and add my library. And the way that I do that is I come here, okay, and I'll make a pod file. So I'm going to use one that I've already created. It's in Documents, Test 6. I've already got a pod file, so I'm going to take this one, copy it. I'm going to paste it to my new project. Okay, and while I'm here, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. I've already got a specification file, and this is the one I'm going to be using just as a demonstration, so I'm going to copy that as well and put it in my new project. Okay, so now that I've got that, all right, I want to go to my new project, so I'm going to go CD test 7. I'm going to VI my pod file. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to change this to my current project, whatever I'm working on, which is test 7. And let's check to see if I've got the right version, which I do. It's Form Builder 0.5.6 is the current version. So that looks good. I'm going to save that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close this Xcode. I don't need that open right now because what I'm about to do is I'm going to install my Form Builder library by using CocoaPods. So it's very easy. You just do a pod install. And this is going to go out and get my CocoaPod and install it. And it's also going to create a new workspace file for me that I can use. So if I open that folder, okay, now I've got a workspace, right? I'm going to open the workspace from now on instead of the project. And CocoaPods makes the workspace for me so that I can include the pods with my project. And if you look down in here, you can see Form Builder is there. Okay. So how am I going to use this thingy? Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to make a new view controller, and I'm going to subclass the FB form view controller, which is the main view controller that does all of the work for me of displaying and editing the form, okay? So I'm going to just subclass that so I can change just what I need to change for my particular project. So I'm going to say new file, Cocoa Touch class. I'm going to do test view controller. Right now it's just a view controller. We'll start off like that. And then we'll create this file. Okay, now Xcode is a little bit funny about this. It may not immediately recognize my form builder library, but it will soon. Okay, that might take a little time. I might have to clean and rebuild, but it will recognize that. And this one we'll keep. This one I don't really need right now. It's going to clutter up, so let's get rid of that. Now, this one, I'm going to want to load my file, but before I do that, I'm going to change this to FB form view controller, like that. So I'm making a subclass of the form view controller from form builder. Okay, so now I should be able to come in here and say self.load specification. I can't yet. Okay, so let's do a clean and build. Xcode is a little bit slow about recognizing your pod libraries, it seems to me, but it will eventually. Okay, so while it's building, let's see now, the other thing I need to do is I need to add my specification file to my project. I'll also need to go in and modify my storyboard. So let's try this, self.load. There's load specification named, and then we'll just give it contact, because that's the name of our specification file. You don't have to put the .spec file extension. It will find that for you. So just the name. Okay, so then other thing we'll want to do, okay, now when our specification file is finished loading, it's going to call populate. And that's going to let us add data from our object into the form if it exists. If we're displaying an object which already exists, you'll populate it here. Okay, and then you can override func save. Okay, there's other ones that you can override as well, like discard and field value changed. They're not necessary. But these two you'll probably most of the time want to override. So in here, this is when they decide to save the data and it passes validation, you'll take all your data from your form and put it back in your object, basically. Okay, so this one's taking data out of the object, this one's putting data back in the object. Okay, with me so far? All right, so now let's see. What are we going to show? We will add a file, and our specification file, which is called contact, will tell us what our form is supposed to look like. It's very basic file, actually, just 2 or 3 fields. And okay, the only thing left for us to do at this point in order to start displaying data is to add our user interface. And here's how we do that. Okay, our view right now is just a view controller, but we're going to change that to test view controller. And also we're going to add a table view to put all of our data into. The table view, My mouse on this computer is a piece of junk. Okay. Constantly doing things that I wanted to do, but you're not really interested in that, are you? Okay, so I don't blame you. All right, so here we have a table view, and we're going to set the data source and delegate, of course, to be our parent view. See, here it goes again. Okay, and then we'll set our table view of our form to be this table view. Okay, now we're all wired up. Now you'll notice that I didn't drag this all the way to the top, because if I do that, it's just going to be obnoxious. When you scroll, your table view is going to go up past your what in the when you scroll, your table view will go up past your status bar. If you do that, if you bring it all the way to the top, it's just going to look ugly. So bring it down to the top of your status bar like that. That way you don't get any overlapping junk. And then put in your constraints like so. Then there's one other thing you'll want to do, a little bookkeeping. And that is you will want to set the selection to no selection. Trust me, it's better this way, because you don't really want to be selecting stuff. This is the table of data, and you can't really select it the way you would a normal table, so it just doesn't make any sense. So disable the selection, and after that we should be ready to go. Okay, we subclassed our form with test view controller, right? We subclassed it. We subclassed FB form view controller. We loaded our specification file. We overrode populate and save. We added a specification file to the project. We can also load a custom settings and a custom style sheet if we want. Usually you probably want to do that in app delegate when it starts up. App did finish loading or something. Just load in your style sheet and your settings if you want to, but you don't have to. We went into storyboard. We added our test view controller. We added our table, set our properties on our table. So let's just see what happens. Now you'll notice this is on the iPhone 8. This other one, you can see it's an iPad. So you can see all of these fields display dynamically. They size themselves depending on what kind of size view they're on and how they need to relate to other items. So for instance, you see the address section. When you add another, or when you go into edit mode, okay, it's bringing another icon here. But if you add another section, okay, and then go into edit mode, look, okay, there's too many icons here, so the label automatically moves itself to make room for these icons. Now this isn't by any means or stretch perfect yet, but you know, it's getting there. It's going to be a work in progress, but that's the idea, that the elements make room for each other. This makes room for this makes room for that. See how this one stretches all the way across. The reason why this one doesn't is because of this city label. Okay, And by the way, these are some of the different ways you can display items too. And you'll notice this section on the bottom is in edit mode, but this one isn't. So it goes by section. Now they're both in edit mode. Now address is a heading, street is a text field, but it's in vertical orientation. So the label is above the input. City is in reverse horizontal orientation. So the city comes after, the label comes after the input. And all you have to do in order to change this is to change the style sheet. All of this is controlled in the style sheet. So you would change it there and just take the style that is specified for this field in your specification file and change its style, or add a new style and link it to that style. So you'll see here, okay, by default the style is just named after what kind of item it is. So section has this default style of section, but you can change that. Like for instance, street has a style my text, and that's just a special little demonstration style I put into the style sheet so you could see the vertical orientation. So the orientations are horizontal, reverse horizontal, vertical, reverse vertical, placeholder, and I think that's it. So this is, and by the way, this rotates. See how it resizes when you rotate. Now look, the address is no longer in 2 rows because now it has plenty of room. So it's going to resize. You can also delete anything you added, by the way. So if you add a label, okay, this label you can now delete because you added it. But anything you didn't add, you can't delete. And again, you can, if you decide to, you can let them collapse and expand your sections. So that's it. That's Form Builder. That's how you use it. Or that's basically the functionality of it and how you can add it to your projects. And again, it's available both on GitHub and CocoaPods. Thanks for listening.